Is this on?
Yes, my lord.
Good. Hello, this is God speaking. Can we dial that down?
Yes, my lord.
Thanks. Welcome, new arrival to the Eternity Ward. Please take a number and make your way down to the left or the right to the waiting room. All you need is the refreshments I made just for you. I would tell you to steer clear of the apples, they're forbidden, and the 2 snakes. Fools, sorry, that are chewing the fat in the corner, but you probably wouldn't listen anyway. So good luck, I bless you, and on your way.
Welcome to the Eternity Ward, where we flick through old copies of Reader's Digest and chat with our buddies while we wait for an appointment with God. I'm Nick McKinnon.
And I'm Chris Adams. And Nick.
Oh, yes, Chris.
What you been up to?
What have I been up to? I've just got back from a little camping expedition with my 2 lovely kids and my mother. It was the 2 coldest days that we've had in ages. I wore a jumper both times. Both days, but we still got in the water because we're Tasmanian.
I've got some sunburn that's been peeling off me, so it has not been cold here at all at any point. I went on a camp on the harbour, on a beach, a place called Land's Edge, with a whole bunch of high school students, taking them on a camp and sort of an adventure camp, kayaking, paddleboarding, jumping off the jetty. I jumped off the jetty, Nick.
You rebel.
Yep.
That sounds like a lot of fun, Chris.
It was good. It was pretty chill. And I'm still on mostly holidays, just a few odd jobs here and there. So I'm relaxing. Why are you putting me through torment and getting me to talk about social issues and stuff? I'm meant to be relaxing. I'm on holiday.
Well, that's what our conversations are meant to be. What's the point of just sitting around talking about Taylor Swift and whatever else you want to talk about?
What do I want to talk about? I got a pool today. I bought a pool.
A pool?
Yeah.
What? Just for your dog?
For my dog.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
One of those tiny little sort of clamshelly ones.
Yeah.
She's a bit unsure. She stands in it, but she's like, what do I do now?
This is not real, Chris. You still need to take me to the river.
Anyway, so what are we talking about, Nick?
Yeah, so we're going to be chatting the Gillette ad. And by the time you listen to this, you'll probably think this is like 3 weeks old news. And the reason for that is because I don't know what it was like for you, Chris, but when I first saw it, my response was, it's an okay ad. Yep, it's just an ad.
Yeah. Yeah.
No big deal. Had some good points.
Someone asked me what I thought, and I went, yeah, fine with me. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, and then there's just been this massive big wah, 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 everyone yelling at each other. So what are you yelling about? It's not that big a deal, is it? That was my first response, Chris. I don't know what your first... Well, it sounds like your response upon seeing it was pretty similar to mine. It was just like, yep, that's whatever.
Yeah, it's good. Yep.
Yeah, so you really liked it, did you?
First time I watched it, really liked it. And then from some of the complaints from people and the big hoo-ha, I've gone, yeah, I can see some of your reasons why you don't like it, but I'm still of the opinion that, like, yeah, I'm fine with it. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a positive campaign, to signal to men that we can be better.
Yeah. Yeah, the first time I watched it, like, I did notice that it sort of dribbled as many of those social justice warrior buzzwords as it possibly could. It, like, crammed them in there as, in like a 10-second period. It also highlighted areas that we do need to improve, like, guys grabbing girls' asses, demeaning women at a boardroom meeting, that catcalling sort of stuff, school violence, all that sort of stuff. We do need to get rid of that sort of stuff in society. The question is, like, whether it's specific individuals and we need to help those people to be the best they can be, or whether it's a massive society-wide issue. And I think, I don't think the ad tried to suggest it was everyone by any stretch of the imagination, but I think there are people that are very, and I understand why, but are very easily triggered by these sort of ads that come along, and so I can understand why people, saw what Gillette were trying to do. Like, they were being very cynical. Like, there's no reason to think that Gillette actually believes in any of the stuff that it was talking about. Like, we'll probably get to this a bit later, but I liked that it was coming at these issues and like highlighting very specific things that we need to change about the way some men behave in society. And I think I liked it for the same reason that I think so many people respond to Jordan Peterson, that the ad was trying to say that we need to take responsibility, and not in sort of a pointing finger, accusational, condescending sort of way, but like in an inspiring, we need to be the best that we can be sort of way. And like it said those sort of things explicitly at times, like it said, we believe in the best in men, we need to hold each other accountable. That ad ended by saying it's only by challenging ourselves to do more that we can get closer to being our best. And I'm just like, how can you not agree with that? Of course, we all need to be reminded that we all need to take responsibility for our own behaviour. And if we see anything happening, we need to step in and make the society the best way we can possibly make it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of people who are very angry about that ad maybe didn't watch it through to the end, because the ad sort of, it starts off with some of the bad things that men are doing, but, it's finishing the ad by giving practical little things that men can do to step in, to hold each other accountable and to try, it was role modeling, I guess, some, practical ways that we can be better and closer to our best.
So you said...
So what do you think of the... Oh, yeah, go on.
So you said that... the first time you watched it, you thought, yeah, that's pretty good. But then upon hearing other people's objections to it, you went and had another look and you could sort of see what they were objecting to. What were those things that you think you could understand why people were having problems with?
Well, I guess, a lot of people don't like it because they feel like it's this continual attack on men at the moment, that it's part of this cultural thing. There's this non-stop attack on being a man or on masculinity. Yeah, so you could lump it in with that. People were angry because it was, produced by a female.
Was it?
People were angry because...
I didn't know that.
Yeah, people were angry because it was, like a lot of the men's rights activists and stuff were saying, because a lot of the aggressors, the aggressive males in the ad are white people. And they're saying, well, it's not white people that are doing this, it's other cultures and other, and why aren't you showing more diversity in the ad, of people being the aggressors? And I can sort of go, well, you're going to play, you play things fairly safe. I can see why they maybe use the actors they use at times. But look, I just think it's a positive campaign. So the people who are getting really angry about it, I guess you could say they're being triggered. They're feeling,
I think so.
They're being triggered. And so this is an interesting phenomenon of, different people getting triggered. So often it's people accusing the left, these lefties being triggered. And in a sense, this is sort of like an opposite of that.
Yeah.
So what does it mean? What does it mean that they're being triggered? Because it's not saying every man is horrible, but it's saying, we're all men. For me, I think toxic masculinity is all of our problem, because we all feed off each other and we all learn from each other, and we can all set standards, and we all caught some of that gender stereotype stuff as we were growing up that can lead us towards toxic avenues. But I just think if you're getting that offended, are you getting offended because you want to be able to be the bully, or you want to be...
No.
You think it's political correctness gone too far? Like, what are they angry about? Why are they triggered?
Yeah, it's just the trigger thing. Like, they're used to seeing so much shit being piled on men that they see the first 30 seconds of it, like you were saying, and they're like, oh, here we go. Yeah. Now even Gillette's getting in, piling on men, it's a pretty strange idea that Gillette is the company doing this. Like, if it was a more female-oriented company, it might make more sense. Like, I do wonder how much this is going to hurt Gillette, because I can't imagine it helping. Like, I guess it might help feminists buying their products, but I guess there's a lot of feminists that don't shave, Chris, so that's a joke, people. That's a joke. It's a joke. It's okay.
Well, I mean, you've said before, like when we had the whole gay marriage debate and all these organisations were sort of like lumping in with where they were standing, and you were saying, well, they're not stupid. These organisations aren't stupid. They've done their research, so one, are Gillette doing this because they have these values? Two, are they doing it because... No, this is my question. Two, are they doing it because they think there's money in it? Or is it a bit of both? Like, they're not stupid. Do you think they're going to... Like, Nike went and did that.
Yeah, Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah, that ad copped a lot of criticism, a lot of people burning their shoes and stuff, but they seem to have survived fine, I think, and I think Gillette will too.
That's a silly thing to say,
I don't think
Chris.
they're dumb.
Of course they're going to survive. No one's saying that they're going to go under tomorrow. People are just saying that, it will hurt their sales.
Oh, yeah.
Did the Nike thing help? I don't know. I wouldn't have a clue. I haven't looked into it. People probably don't even know what the hell we're talking about.
Yeah.
The Gillette thing, I can't see it helping Gillette. I'm sure they thought that it was a good idea. Whether or not it will be, I don't think it will. But is it values that they hold? I'm sure it's a value that the lady that made it holds. I've got no doubt about that. Is it a value that Gillette as a company holds? No friggin' way. They're a company. They're trying to make money. If you think that they actually, as a company, care about whatever it is, women's rights or toxic masculinity, you're deluding yourself. I don't know if you've seen this, but they are definitely cynically playing both sides of the ideological field here. So they've made this ad, trying to get in on the Me Too movement and the social commentary that surrounds it, get themselves in the news, all that sort of stuff. But they also sponsor the bums of ladies who surround the winners at car races. Like, have you seen the photo? I hadn't seen it until this Gillette ad came along, and then people started sharing it on my Facebook timeline. I went, yeah, good one, Gillette. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen. No, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, well, so there's this, the girls I'm talking about, like on the podium after a bloke wins a car race. They're surrounded by 20 attractive, young-looking women wearing not much clothes. So there's this photo of these 20 women all dressed in this lycra, totally tight-fitting. They're all turned around, showing, poking their ass out, and written right on their ass is Gillette.
Yeah.
So, no, yeah. Gillette is not your white knight.
No, but could they be reevaluating what they've stood for in the past and what they intend to stand for in the future?
No.
You don't think so? Because I read an interview with someone from Gillette. What's his name? Damon Jones.
His name is I Want to Sell More Razors.
Yeah, sure. I hold a fair amount of cynicism. He's the vice president of Procter & Gamble, who own Gillette. Someone asked him, how is Gillette actually living up to the standard of being best as a brand? And he said, well, we did start with ourselves. It's not just about an ad campaign. We had to look at ourselves and say, are we doing everything that would bring this intent to life? And from a brand purpose point of view, and with their partnership with a group called the Boys and Girls Club of America, they decided that they needed to put their words into action. So maybe they are putting some words into action.
So maybe do you think they've stopped sponsoring sexist representations of women's bodies?
Yeah, I don't know. But I also know that, Nike, a lot of these companies try to say, look how good we are. And this is the concept of virtue signaling, is saying, look how good we are. We do this. We care about this. And Nike, said, we care about the Black Lives Matter, essentially, sort of thing.
Is that what the ad was about?
Well, it was tied to the Black Lives Matter movement, because that's what Colin Kaepernick was, he's kneeling instead of standing for the national anthem. So it was tied to that movement. But yes, are they the most ethical company? Well, Nike have been accused lots and lots of times of slave labor. What other things did Gillette do which are unethical and stuff? I don't know. Is any company completely ethical? There are, but most of these large companies, you're going to be able to find things. So yes, they are not the white knight, but could they, in a boardroom, sit around and say, look, we need to do something to to rebrand? Because you're laughing at virtue.
Chris, they're not. They're sitting around the boardroom going, how can we make more money? That's the only thing they're sitting around a boardroom doing. And that's the only thing they should be doing.
I'm normally the really cynical one. You don't think board members can't decide that we want to add some value back to society?
I'm sure that's on their priority list, but it's lower than make money.
One of the things they're doing is, which I think you can be pretty cynical about this too, because they're giving $1 million each year for the next 3 years to non-profit organisations that are helping men deal with issues as all part of this campaign as well.
Yeah.
And I'm going, yeah, that's really cool. $1 million each year for 3 years. But that also seems like a very small amount for such a large company.
It's for the press release. That's all it's for. Don't think that they care. They're a company. Anyway, back to the ad.
Back to the ad.
Can I tell you about the thing in the ad that really did annoy me? There was really only one thing in the ad that really annoyed me. I don't think I've heard anyone talk about this, so I'll be interested to hear what you think about it. So they were going through like all the evil shit that men do, and the last thing that they showed was a couple of boys rumbling in the backyard and parents looking on, their fathers looking on saying, oh, boys will be boys, boys will be boys. And like that was the culmination of this whole thing. And it went from there to like talking about the Me Too movement and sexual harassment allegations. I'm just like what is the link between those two things? And like to me, like the kids weren't punching each other. They were just wrestling on the ground. Like one wasn't crying. They were just having a rough and tumble in the backyard. And I'm thinking like that's what kids need. They need rough and tumble play in the backyard. That's a good thing. And like when you said it was a woman that made the ad, that's the first thing that came to my mind. As soon as you said that, I went, that makes sense. Because like mothers step in on those sort of situations. Fathers are like, go for it, boys. And there's so much research out there saying that kids need physical rough and tumble play, that they need to know where the line is between when we're all having fun and when we've crossed that line and I've hurt someone. And you only learn that through trial and error. And you learn it when there's an appropriate response when they cross the line, not when dad gets angry and punches back or something like that. That would be, that would be awful, obviously. But if they're rough and tumbling and they cross the line, the person that they're engaged in this play with then responds and says, hey, that's not good enough. You're allowed to rough and tumble, but if you poke me in the eye, no, not good enough. And that's how they learn where the line is between good, rough play and when you're actually starting to hurt someone, because we need to learn that. What do you think about that?
When I saw that scene, I thought, it's just boys having a little play fight. But then I think from what I remember, I'd have to have a look at the ad again, but it looked like one really got the upper hand, and it's like when play fighting just goes that step too far and suddenly it wasn't really a play fight anymore and dad stepped in, which I think any dad would do. I don't see people just leaving one kid to get beaten to a pulp. I don't see that sort of thing happening.
No, so you wait until, like, if one kid is clearly upset.
Yeah.
And the kid that's on top isn't responding to that visual or verbal cue of this kid is upset, then you step in.
Yeah.
But if the kid underneath is still enjoying it and still having fun and isn't, crying, isn't calling out, isn't saying stop, stop, stop.
Yeah. Let him go.
Let it go. Yeah. Carry on.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you don't step in.
No?
Yeah, so I didn't think that happened in that ad. I'll have to go back and watch it later. But
I thought with learning, being in our bodies and learning how to be in our bodies and learning social cues from other people, got to go through experiences and you got to cross the line and go, oops, that's part of being a child, so that we don't end up having to cross the line all the time when it's a bit more serious when we're adults.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's right. But the thing I liked is that it went straight from then, like that part of the ad that I really disliked, and then it went to the TV news clips of them reporting on the Me Too sexual harassment stuff.
Right.
But then straight from there, it went back into that message of we believe in the best in men. We need to hold each other accountable. Yeah. Like it didn't go into toxic masculinity and men are the problem and blah, blah, blah. And straight after that, the we believe in the best of men and that sort of stuff, it goes into numerous examples of where real men shutting down douchebag men who were acting like dicks, like dudes that were, catcalling, and another dude comes up and says, hey, not cool, dude, not cool. It's just like, that's exactly what we need to do.
I read a fantastic, I could probably find it actually. Should I read someone else's Facebook post?
You can, but I'll probably disagree with it. This is the thing that I've had problems with is people.
Oh no! I don't think you'll disagree with it.
Anyway,
this is a mate of mine. You actually know him, but I won't put his name out there. But he wrote this.
Find it and read it.
I found it. He said, "Men, for fuck's sake, stop, think, take a breather. I love my wife. I love my friends. I love looking after my mates. Tonight, there was an event. After the event, I had a moment. We as men had a moment. I heard some raised voices, a particularly raised male voice. I looked over the road and saw a decent-sized male looking quite aggressive and behaving aggressively toward a female. It was really not okay. As soon as I realised, I headed directly toward the male. I shouted at him, "Oi, it's not okay to speak to her like that." The dude was big. He was my size, tall and wide and aggressive. Luckily, he diverted his attention from the lady toward me. I continued to move toward him. My hands were out and open. I took a passive stance. However, I was ready to defend. I spoke calmly and only about the behaviour toward the lady. This man was aggressive, very aggressive. He said, "I knew my karate would ground me and my knowledge of self-defense and attack would protect me." The calm voice I very much tried to have helped avoid full physical contact. I talked him down. I spoke calmly. I spoke of only the situation at hand. Many times I reminded this man of how we as men can lose control of who we are. I mentioned that we need to protect our loved ones and all other females. I mentioned that we as men tend to build up things we don't talk about, including feelings and arguments, etc., to a tipping point where we just explode. And that we as men need to work together, assist each other in these moments of fury to avoid these horrible situations. I said that often we have no one we feel we can talk to about this, no male that will truly listen. I said I was here to support him. I was here to help right now, tonight. And he said the man lowered his posture to a passive and upset man and started breathing loudly, and then they started talking. And yeah, he goes on to talk more about what happened. He walked him to his hotel and they were talking about the love they have for their partners, and, you know, but that, and this guy who wrote this, he goes on a bit later to say, you know, men are always going to be pretty aggressive. Men will always be aggressive. We'll continue to be fucks, but for fuck's sake, stop, think, take a breather. And when I saw that ad, because I just read this a day or two before, and when I saw that ad, and I went, that sort of thing that bloke did, that's what we've got to do.
Yep.
And he's a pretty masculine bloke.
Yeah. And I think a really important part of that you just shared is something that I don't think most people will pick up on, is that he is trained in self-defense. Yeah. And that is really helpful, because if you come across a violent situation, if you're not trained, it's dangerous stepping in. You're putting yourself on the line. And you might like to think you'll still do it. You probably won't. But if you're trained in it, will you step in? You still might not. But I think you've got a much better chance of stepping in. And if you do step in, you'll have that confidence knowing that if things go sideways, that you've at least got a fighting chance. Whereas, like, if you're someone my size, like, you probably can't tell by, you know, my head. But I'm not that big. I'm pretty small. And certainly socially, I'm a fairly unconfident person. And so there's no way I would have stepped into any fights, 5 years ago. But I've been doing this self-defense course for the last year and a half or so. And man, it helps. It helps, like, I've never had to go into any physical situation, but it even helps just in your social situations, because you feel more confident about yourself. And it's one of the things I loved about this ad. Like, at one point, it also talked about what we need to be teaching girls. We need to be teaching, like, there was a father at one point standing with his daughter going, "You are strong." And she's going, "I am strong." I'm like, yeah, we need to teach our daughters that they are strong, that they stand up to pricks who are being arseholes. And you fight back. You don't just let them get away with whatever they want to get away with. No, beat the shit out of them.
Yeah, that was actually one of the other complaints about the ad, was in some cases, like the woman in the boardroom who just sort of goes quiet and silent. It's
she should have stood up for herself.
People were saying, "Oh, don't show my feminist daughter this ad because that's going to teach her the wrong thing. She should stand up for herself." But yeah, no, that guy saying to his daughter, "You're strong." That's a viral video that went out a few years back. He tells her all of these things in front of the mirror, and she has to repeat them, and it's beautiful. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do Krav Maga. How do you pronounce it?
Yeah, no, you nailed it. Krav Maga.
Krav Maga. So if anyone wants to advertise with the Eternity Ward, because you put up
in Tasmania,
you were telling people to join. You were telling people to join on your Facebook.
No, it's so good because it's super practical. So it's not a martial art. This is the mistake I made when I first rang the dude, I was like, oh, I'm interested in doing a martial art. And he said, it's not a martial art, it's self-defense. I'm like, what the hell do I know? I don't know the difference between the two. But yeah, so it's self-defense. You are learning about real-world situations to defend yourself, where it's not a martial art where you're actually learning techniques and, routines and stuff like that you'd never actually use in a real-life situation. You're learning, a guy comes up to you with a knife. What do you do? There are times when you do it slow, but there's also times when you do it at full speed, and they've got a fake knife with lipstick on it so that if you get stabbed.
Right.
Because if it hits you, there's a red mark all over you. So you're learning how to take down someone when they've got a knife, or if they're coming, they're angry and they're violent and they're out of control and they're coming swinging punches at you. You're learning how to block, take them down. And in the thing I would have shared, the first rule is get out, run. Yeah. If you ever have a chance to get out, get out. Don't stick around trying to be a macho man. No, bugger that. Get out of there as quick as possible.
So it's based on your fight or flight response. Is that right? And so they suggest the first thing to do is fly, get out.
Yeah. So the problem with that idea of fight or flight is it's not how most of us behave. Most of us don't either fight or flight. Most of us freeze.
Yeah, that's the other one. Yeah.
When there's a violent situation, we don't run away and we don't fight. We just go, oh, shit, I don't know what to do. And so you want to get to the point where you get past that freeze, and if you can run away, absolutely run away. If you I'm fairly fit, I'm pretty confident I could outrun most people. But it's not just that. Like if I'm somewhere with my wife or if I'm somewhere with my kids, I can't just run.
No.
I have to stay there and I have to protect them.
Yeah. Well, that's part of, being the best a man can be, is to be able to protect.
Yeah.
But I also like those sorts of things. I've done a little bit of self-defense and stuff, and I like it because it helps you in yourself to be grounded in situations and to feel, so as you say, more confident, and you're more just mentally prepared. If you've thought through the process of what might happen in this situation, then you find yourself in the situation, you don't just freeze. You then have options that you can go to, that you can try. So, but it helps us be more grounded, like just fucking stop, take a breath, have a breather. Even when you're feeling that anger yourself, it helps you as well, not just in dealing with other people, but in dealing with yourself, I think.
Yeah. I mean, the other side of that scene in the ad is, sometimes you actually do want someone else to come and help sort out your thoughts. Sometimes you're in a boardroom and you're all freaked out and you screw up what you were meant to say, and maybe you do want someone else to come along and say, look, what they're trying to say is, it's not necessarily that dude was pushing her out of the way and saying, here, I know what's going on. Maybe he was trying to help her. But of course the ad was trying to paint it as the dude's an arsehole.
Well, yeah, because you're putting it in the context of the ad. So, that's the situation.
But it's not like that's always a bad thing. Whereas whistling at a woman as she walks past on the street, if you don't know her, that's always a bad thing.
It's always a bad thing. It's just... Yep, whistling at someone, always a bad thing. That you'd call that a piece of toxic masculinity.
Well, maybe. It's just a guy being a douchebag.
Right. The thing I want to come back to, I guess, is the other thing that we can talk about is, do the people that think that men are being ganged up on at the moment, that there's a cultural war against men, do they have a point?
Yeah.
And is this part of that, or is this maybe not really that much part of it because it had some more positive...
I don't think this is part of it, but I can understand why people are responding as though they are. Like I was saying, I think people are being triggered by this. I don't think this ad was that bad, but I do understand why people are sensitive to these sort of issues. Because, I think the big difference between this ad and a lot of, when, say, Clementine Ford says something that's really stupid, is that this ad is coming from within the tribe of men. It's about us saying we need to be better. Whereas when it's someone else just piling on shit and pretending like it's everyone, that's not helpful. Again, this ad wasn't saying it was everyone. It was very clearly, explicitly saying it's not everyone. It was showing guys being really, standing up in ways that they should. That father and the dude that was, saying to their mates, hey, you don't need to do that. And not doing it in a judgmental, condescending, you're an evil person sort of way, but just saying, hey, we don't behave like that.
Yeah, it's not cool, man.
Yeah. I don't think we're in a culture of hating men, but I do think we're in a culture of delegitimizing the real struggles that men do have. We seem to be hyper aware of the issues that women face, and they are real issues. I'm not saying they're not real issues, but it's like we focus on them 100% of the time and people never focus on the issues that men face. And I think that's the imbalance that certainly men's rights activists get frustrated at, that, you know, everyone in prison is a male. Suicide rates of men are just way higher than women. You know, family courts laws. There are real issues that face men that never get talked about, except for in November. And women have the rest of the time in the public space of everyone saying, poor women aren't men arseholes. I think that part of it is true, and I think that's why some people feel that triggered sense when an ad like this comes along, even though I think this ad is, I think it's a good ad.
Yeah, okay.
Do you agree with that, or do you disagree?
No, well, I can say, yeah, I think men's issues deserve to have their time in the sun, so to speak, you know, to bring things out into the open. I think we like things being brought out into the open and dealt with in the public sphere, don't we? Isn't that's a good thing? So all of this stuff that's happened, you know, all of the women's issues and bringing all of that out into the open, I think is a good thing. But yeah, so are men's issues being talked about as much? Probably not. I think what I don't like is when men try to, you know, because I think each issue needs to have its moment in the sun, sort of thing, you know, then to be dealt with. And, you know, so if, you know, women are talking about like the 60 to 70 women that were killed by men this past year here in Australia by men that supposedly loved them or were meant to protect them, that's an issue. It's real, you know, and that is a related to toxic masculinity issue. But for men to then come in and say, well, what about our issues over the top of that isn't the way. Somehow you've got to do each person their time separately, but you don't shout one issue down with another issue. I always got annoyed with, you know, someone would put up a Facebook post about some injustice somewhere and someone would go, yeah, well, what about all the people, you know, starving in Africa or something? And I'm going, well, hang on, they're separate issues. We can deal with all sorts of different issues. But yeah, that's a good question though. Are we dealing with the men's issues? Are we talking about them?
Yeah, they're separate issues. I kind of agree with that, but at the same time, they are linked. And also, like when you talk about a pile of money is going to this thing and then someone else says, well, shouldn't it be going to this other thing? Yeah, they're separate. But again, like resources are limited and airspace is limited. And so if 90% of the time people are talking about female issues and it's only 10% of the time that they're talking about men, I can understand when someone brings up a women's issue that there are some men that say, hey, what about these issues? I can understand that. If it was more balanced, if, you know, half the time the news talked about men's issues and half the time it talked about women's issues, then, yeah, you'd be a jerk for jumping in on someone else's issue. But when it is so lopsided, and, like, maybe you don't think it's lopsided, but I certainly think the reporting on these issues is lopsided.
Yeah, no, I do think it's lopsided, but I think it's lopsided for a purpose of trying to right something that was lopsided towards men for eons as it was. So yeah. It's still trying.
And that's what I've tried to get through to you for all these years, Chris, is that you don't go from one lopsided to another lopsided. You go from one lopsided to equal. Yeah, equal. Come on, feminism. We want equality.
Still trying to get there. Still trying to get there.
Yeah, but not by going to another extreme. Okay. We don't need a pendulum swing. That doesn't justify it by saying things were bad in the other direction in the past. That doesn't justify it.
No, it's just trying to right all of these issues so that we can get to a place where, you know, then we can just talk equal issues.
Okay, well, let's do that. Let's talk equal.
All right.
For both. There we go.
I still think we're trying to get there.
But can you understand why some men would respond with those sort of comments, you know, when people will say, you know, this many women have been killed in domestic violence, and, you know, then another man will say, well, what about the however many men that have been killed in homicides? Because that'll be way higher than the number of women killed in domestic violence. Why is that not a decent thing to bring up?
No, it's worth bringing up, but this is the thing. This is what always frustrates me about talking to you about this. Is like, but who's doing those homicides? It's not women.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
men are inflicting damage on women and on men.
Okay, so you're saying because men are overrepresented as the perpetrators, there is clearly an issue with men that we need to fix and we need to focus on.
Yeah, which I think, things like this add, which is just trying to change the culture to try and help fix, some of those issues. And that's what difference is it going to make? I don't know, maybe a tiny bit here and there, but the more all of these little things mount up, the more that our culture changes, and we hopefully end up with less of this toxic side of masculinity and more of being the best that we're meant to be.
Yeah, so if there is a section of the population that is responsible for a disproportionate amount of crime, we would say that they have issues that they need to work on. So we would say the same for black men in America. We would say the same thing for Muslim people in Australia. Because that's where the left they're not equal in the way that they talk about these things. They say, for men are bastards. Look at all these people they kill. And then if it's black people in America or Muslims in Australia, then they'll say, oh, that's because society have been arseholes to these people. And look, there's truth to that. I'm not saying there's not truth to that. Of course there is. But what I'm trying to say is there's truth to society has been difficult to men as well. Yeah. Men are overrepresented at the top of society and they're overrepresented at the bottom. And feminism only wants to talk about that men are overrepresented at the top. And I think we need to focus on both. That men are also overrepresented at the bottom of our society, and that's where all the crime comes from.
Yep. All right, well, we're focusing on it a bit here now, so there you go.
Yeah.
I was listening to the podcast Will Anderson and Father Bob. Will was having a chat to Father Bob.
Yep.
Father Bob was talking about, he was just sort of painting a picture of a Muslim man, but it could be any man at I guess you would call, like you were just saying, at the bottom, right? He's saying, what do you want to do with this man? It's like, well, feed this man to start with. Feed this man, because if you don't feed him, he's going to be sad. And he may graduate to mad. And then he may graduate to bad. That's what Father Bob, that's his sort of philosophy, which is if you don't look after them and you don't listen to these people, bring these people into the fold, they'll start off being sad, but then they'll get mad and then they'll turn bad. That's just reality. So,
Yep.
Feed them. That doesn't have to be food, but...
So you're saying that men are underprivileged in our society. Good. I'm glad we agree.
Well, yeah, there are.
Good luck seeing that on ABC tonight. Before we carry on, that was just a silly comment of me, of course. Kind of. Aaron, I know you're out there. Would you like to jump in the conversation? Because you've pointed out some things in the chat on the side. And you've come on before. If you'd like to come on, you're very welcome to.
Brief intermission. He did come on and chat, but we forgot to get him to record his bit, so that chat is not available for this podcast. Our bad. But we do record most of our podcasts as a video chat, and you can comment, you can even join us. So if you want to see the extra half hour with Aaron, or join us one day and come on, go to and follow Eternity Ward on Facebook. But now, back to the conclusion of this episode. So thanks, Aaron, for joining us. And he had some good points about what he thinks a man is in this day and age. And so I think that's sort of like the question I think that we should probably end this podcast on is, what's the best a man can be? If that's the Gillette ad.
Me?
You're the best.
Pretty much. I'm pretty much the best.
Pinnacle of manhood.
The problem I have with that question is that I think all of us just need to be the best individual we need to be. I don't think we need to focus on man, woman, whatever race you are, whatever your sexuality is. I don't care. Just, you should be a good person. You should look after the people that you care for. You should treat everyone with respect. You should be strong enough to stand up for yourself. It's all these tensions that, you don't want to be weak and you don't want to be too strong. No. So there's nothing wrong with being strong. There is something wrong with being weak. There's nothing wrong with being vulnerable. And there is something wrong with being inconsiderate of other people. So there's just all these tensions that you got to carry around with you at all times. And who cares about whether you're a man or you're a woman? Doesn't matter. But in terms of society-wide generalities, well, then I would want men to be the protectors, to be the ones that fight for the things they believe in.
Yeah, well, I like what you were saying in that, well, we don't have to be the gender stereotypes. You can make your own man, make your own woman, and we can help to shape our culture by making that clear, that it's not a one-size-fits-all. So figure out who you are. Be you.
Here.
And like the father to that girl, saying you are strong. Strength can just be seen as a positive masculine trait, but it's for all in its own way. So, yeah, be strong. Be bold. But, yeah, be, sensitive to others too.
Yeah, so it's just that constant tension between whether you're talking about an individual or whether you're talking about a general notion of what is masculine. Because I think it is true to say generally men are strong. But if you're talking about individual, if you're that father standing in front of the daughter, you are saying to her, you are strong. And also there's obviously a difference between, metaphorically strong and literally strong. Men are literally strong in general. Mm-hmm. So are you going to boycott Gillette, Chris?
I've got some Gillette products, not that I have to use them all that much.
I use Gillette. I've used them ever since I started shaving. Literally the exact same razor. I mean, not the same blades. I've changed the blades.
Yeah. No, I won't be boycotting them. I think they handled that tension that you speak of pretty well in a very positive ad.
I'm going to boycott the outrage on both sides. Yep. I think both sides just went crazy on this one, and it was a nothing ad.
Yeah, let's boycott the outrage cycle.
Yep.
Well, there is an interesting social dynamic going on that companies feel the need to do this, to align themselves as moral or progressive, ethical or virtuous, that sort of thing. So I'm hoping that most of that will be a good thing in the long run, bit by bit, that companies feel the pressure to be more ethical in what they create and so become more ethical or virtuous.
Not everyone thinks they're being virtuous.
No. I have quite a lot of cynicism about them. I'm open to the fact that there are people within the organisation that go, no, let's be bold for a good reason.
Thanks for chatting, Chris.
Thanks for chatting, Nick.
I think we agreed on this podcast on almost everything.
Pretty close.
That was really nice.
Yeah, I liked it.
You were worried about this one.
I was.
You didn't need to be worried.
I was worried. Am I going to be spending more time yelling than talking? No, it's all right. Okay. Thanks for listening to the Eternity Ward. We'll catch you next time.
Peace.
God here again. Are you shaking your head incredulously or nodding in approval? Well, if you got something out of this episode, you could really help those poor idiots by contributing to or supporting the Eternity Ward. You can leave reviews on iTunes or wherever you listen to it. You can share it on social media or discuss it in your blog, podcast or fellowship group. Subscribe, like, nod your head, raise your fist, send a hallelujah. I don't know, but don't send a prayer because I'm kind of busy right now. Join the discussion in the comments section, ask questions, and do come back and join us again here on the Eternity Ward.